Come on. Come on. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and for those of you that are new here, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a story time video because a lot of you guys recently have told me that you love how I tell a story, and I love telling stories, so that's what we're doing today. This is a story that I told on this channel right after it happened. It must have been 4 or 5 years ago now that this happened, and it goes down to this day as one of the most disturbingly creepy, weird situations I have ever been in. Maybe after I tell this, you won't agree that it's creepy or weird or whatever, but like for me in the moment, it was sketchy and it was just not something that I ever want to experience again. And so I told it, like I said, on this channel a while ago, and it was mixed in with other stories on the channel, but I wanted to feature it today and retell the story because it's a really good one and I think it's pretty entertaining. So let's get into it. So like I said, this happened probably 5 years ago, and Brandon and I were newly together. I think this was the first summer we were together. As you know, I live in southern Maine. I live right around Portland, Maine, and every single year Portland has a summer festival called Old Port Fest. It's kind of funny I'm telling this because I think this year is the last year they're doing it. That's not important, but anyway, Old Port Fest is like a summer musical festival that they have. There's like block parties and musicians and vendors and food and everything kind of contained within Portland's Old Port, which is where all of the shopping and the restaurants and like all the famous bars and food are. And it's very, very touristy, but it's also a really nice area. So they have Old Port Fest there every single year in the summer. And on this particular summer, Brandon and I decided to do an evening down there, because Old Port Fest would go from the morning all the way until the bars closed at night. So we decided to go down there one night just to get some food and walk around and listen to some music and just have it be like a really chill night. And Brandon at the time drove a Jeep, so we decided to take the Jeep down there because it was a really warm night, and he would take the top off of it and he would take the doors off. And that's important to the story, so just remember that. So we're in this Jeep, no top, no doors. He took the Jeep everywhere, like we took it all over the place like that, and he would never leave anything valuable in it or anything like that, so he was comfortable with the doors being off and stuff. So anyway, moving on. We get down there, and we're driving along the main drag, and there are all of these parking lots lining Commercial Street, which is like the waterfront street in the Old Port. Obviously, they're ranging in price. The closer you get to the festival, the more expensive they are. And so before we went and tried to park at one of those, Brandon wanted to check this spot that we always would park in. And basically it was like a parking lot where only locals kind of knew that you could park there for free and tourists didn't know. And so you would like look at this lot and think that it was like a permit lot, but in reality it was free. So before we went and paid for one of these other lots, he said, "Oh, I want to check our spot." And so I was like, okay. So we got there, and it was this little parking lot in between two of the buildings on the waterfront. And at the time we like pull in and there's like a bunch of spaces open. So he got a little bit nervous because he was like, well, maybe they've changed it to a permit lot. Like, why wouldn't it be more full? Like, the locals know about it. And so I thought that was kind of weird too. So he said, okay, well, let's park and we'll get out and we'll see if any of these cars have any kind of permit, like sticker on them. So we park in this lot and we get out, and I was like, okay, I'll check the back of the windows and you check the front. So he's walking along, looking at everyone's windshields, and I'm looking at the back of the cars and not seeing any stickers or anything. So we're walking along, like not right next to these cars, like we're a good distance away. We're just like checking to see if there's any like passes or anything on them, or if there's any signs that have like appeared. And as we're doing this, all of a sudden we just hear from behind us someone go, "Hey!" And it made me like jump because obviously like we're the only people in this lot at this moment, and we turn around and there's this guy that's like materialized out of nowhere. He like came between these two buildings, like through this little alleyway from like the next lot over. He comes like walking up to us, and we're thinking, oh, this guy must own this lot. And we ask him that. We're like, hey, do you own this parking lot? As I'm getting closer to him, I'm noticing that he's definitely a local. He had like a very like weathered, sunburn kind of look to him, kind of like a fisherman that works out on the water, and he was dressed kind of like someone that would work on the waterfront, and so we figured he was a local guy. And he also, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with that, but we also noticed that he was a little tipsy, or seemingly a little bit tipsy. And he comes out and he's like walking up to us and he's like, what do you guys, like, why are you looking at all the cars? And Brandon was like, oh, like, we don't mean anything by it. Like, we're not doing anything weird. We're just seeing if there's any permits on the cars because we're scared to get towed. And the guy's like, oh, you're definitely gonna get towed here. Like, I've been seeing cars get towed all day, and that's why I was kind of watching to see if anyone would park here. Brandon was like, oh, okay, like, no problem, we'll just move. So we start to like go back to the Jeep, and the guy was like, well, me and my buddies are running a parking lot down the road. If you wanna park there, it's $10. And we're like, okay, like, cool. And he goes, yeah, like, I've just been like coming over here to make sure people don't get towed, and like, you know, we're only charging $10. And he goes, it's better than paying like a tow fee and whatever. Like, he's going on, and we're like, oh yeah, like, totally makes sense. So he was like, yeah, he goes, if it's just like, you take a left out of here and it's right down on the left. And Brandon's like, okay, cool, yeah, like, we'll definitely do that, we'll see you over there. So we walk to get back into the Jeep. We both get in the Jeep and we're talking, like, normally conversing with each other, not thinking anything of it. And I was like, oh, that was really nice of him to warn us, you know, all this stuff. And as we're talking, Brandon starts the Jeep, and we both at the same time realize that this man is climbing into the back of the car. Now, remember that I told you, open top Jeep, no doors, no nothing. He literally got up on the bumper, swung his legs over, and got in the back seat of the Jeep. We both look at each other, and we had like this moment of like, what do we do? Because it was clear to me at that moment that he had been drinking. So you don't know like really what level of intoxication this person is and like what they're capable of when they're intoxicated. And at first I'm thinking he must just be really confused, like thinking that we wanted him to come with us to go to the parking lot. But then like that in my mind like, didn't make sense either. I'm like, well, there was no negotiation of him coming in the car with us, and we don't know who he is. So neither of us say anything. We both are just like, okay, like this is the situation right now. And Brandon decides to kind of play along and goes, okay, like, dude, which way do we go again? Like, which way am I turning? And the guy goes from seemingly tipsy to dead serious in like that second. And he goes, take a left out of here. Like, really, like, you have to understand, before this he was slurring. Now all of a sudden his speech is perfect and he's just like, take a left. Now taking a left out of there put us away from the festival. We're now moving, we're driving away from the main area of the festival on the waterfront. We're heading back towards where the fishing industry like kind of is, and it's not as touristy, and there's, you know, the ships come in and all that stuff. Like, we're heading that direction. I'm shaking because I'm like realizing slowly that we don't know this person. Like, they just got in the car and he could have a weapon. Like, it never had occurred to me until that moment that this man might have a weapon on him that he might pull out at any moment and threaten us. And so we're driving and everyone's really quiet, and Brandon's going, oh yeah, so like, where is this parking lot? Because everyone had signs out on the road for their lots, and we're not seeing any signs this direction, like, at all. And the guy's like, oh, it's just down here, like, we're almost there. And we get to this intersection and he's like, take a left here. And we pull in, we turn left, and we're going into like a dock area. And there's no parking lot sign anywhere, like no $10 sign, there's nobody around. We pull in and like, there's shipping containers and 2 warehouses and random like utility trucks parked all over the place. And we drive in and like, there's no parking lot. Like, there's nobody parked here except for one stereotypical big black sedan, like a big, I think it was like a Chevy or something, I don't know, like one of those, it wasn't an Escalade like you're like out of a movie or whatever, but it was like a big SUV, all blacked out, parked facing the warehouse. And Brandon's like, okay, so where do you want me to park? And the guy goes, oh, park right next to the SUV, which puts us behind the SUV, out of sight from the road. We were kind of already out of sight from the road at this point because there's warehouse buildings all around us. And now we're behind this SUV, and there's like one light on this building, like it's not a very well lit area. The sun is like going down at this point. And Brandon is like, hey, like, there's no one else parked here. Are you sure this is okay? And the guy's like, yeah, like it's fine. Like, it's whatever. And I'm like panicking, like internally panicking. My body, like my mind is telling me, no, this is bad. This is really bad. And so we all get out of the Jeep and Brandon goes to take out his wallet and he's like, yeah, so here's $10. And the guy goes, oh, you have to give it to my buddy. He's inside. And points to the warehouse. The like sketchy warehouse on the waterfront that has nobody there. There's nobody except this other SUV, like besides us. And Brandon's like, where? And he's like, he's inside the warehouse. He's like, yeah, you gotta come like meet them. They're all in there. Like, you can give them the money. And Brandon is like kind of, I mean, he wasn't like totally oblivious to the situation, but he's a lot more like trusting than I am. Like, I don't think he realized right then what was happening, and he starts to walk with this guy, and I just stopped. Like, I stopped dead where I'm standing, and he realizes I'm not following. He turns around, and I'm just doing this because my chest was so tight. Like, I was so freaked out, and I just knew like I had that fight or flight response where it was like, danger, 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 bad situation, get out of here now. Like, my mind was just sending off signals like crazy, going, bad situation, this is bad. And Brandon like recognized that, like suddenly, like he became aware of like, oh, like this is a dumb decision, and was like, yeah, never mind, dude, and like turns back around and starts walking like so fast towards me, and we both start to book it towards the car, like not running, like not full on run, but we're like basically running, like very close to running. And it took the guy a minute to register that we were backing out. I hear him like be like, wait, what? And Brandon's like, dude, we're all set, we're gonna park closer, like this is too far away for us, like we don't want to walk back here later. And he's like, no, it's fine. And Brandon's like, this seems a little like weird, there's nobody else here. And he's like, no, seriously, like give me the $10 or whatever. And we just kept going, and we got in the Jeep, and he threw that Jeep into reverse so fast, and we took off out of there. And the guy was like standing there with his hands up like this, and we drove to the closest possible parking lot. I think we paid like $40 to park for like 2 hours to go to this festival. I'm surprised we even still went to the festival, but we went as close as we possibly could get so that we didn't have a chance of like being anywhere where there wasn't people. I mean, yeah, it could have been a legit situation where there was people in this warehouse that were legitimately running a parking lot, but I highly doubt it. I think we probably would have gotten mugged or worse had we followed this man into this random warehouse on the waterfront. Like, it was just not a good situation. Now that I'm looking back at it, I'm not really sure why we didn't call the cops, because he could have been luring people all day doing this crap. I don't know, but it seemed like we were the first people to be like dumb enough to like let him do this, but we were also easy targets with the Jeep being wide open and he could just get in the car, and that alone was like, we should have called the police like immediately, but we didn't. We just kind of, I don't know, we just like left. And I remember telling my mom when we got home about this, and she was like, you didn't call the police? Like, you didn't tell anybody? And I was like, no, like, I don't know. Like, at the time, it was just kind of like, get out of there. And so that was the story. That's what happened to us on the waterfront in the Old Port several years ago at Old Port Fest. And to this day, I'm very paranoid about parking in any area that I don't know. I stick to well-lit parking like lots that have an attendant and cameras and big lights, and I'm not really a fan of anything that's like away from the main drag of Portland because it does get a little sketchy a little fast. And I know it's just Maine, like a lot of people are like, it's Maine, like how dangerous can it be? But I'm telling you, I feel like everywhere has its area, and that was a bad situation, so. But that's the end of the story. Thank you guys for watching. If you like the story, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, make sure you click that subscribe button and the little bell to know when I upload. Upcoming, I'm going to be doing a life update. There is a lot of things I want to talk to you guys about that's been going on in my life. And also I'm going to do a first wedding related video that's not a wedding horror story, like my wedding video for you guys. And I think that'll be pretty interesting as well. So thank you guys so much. I will see you all in my next video.